Welcome. Always a pleasure serving you. A look at our stories. The country's power sector is facing threats of a shutdown due to the financial flow problems. That's according to the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Ben Boakye. Speaking earlier on the Super Morning Show, Mr. Boakye said there is a long-standing debt owed to the independent power producers by the Electricity Company of Ghana and other stakeholders. He therefore fears the situation could be dire if government fails to intervene.
So that is a scenario that, you look at all things possible, we would have to go through for 2024 as well. I've seen letters and exchanges that happens during the Yuletide where the sector, agencies and private companies had to, shelve their actions to allow us to have the light on. For example, WAPCO wrote to GNPC, giving them the room to allow gas to flow, even though they were indebted close to $20 million, which ordinarily would have caused a cessation of gas flow to the power plants. But they extended their action, to this month, January. If we don't pay, they may want to curtail gas supply to us. We've also seen some actions from the IPPs. Asogli in December was wild, trying to get their money back. They managed to get $60 million from government. We don't know how they're going to push back on these delays in payments. And I keep saying that Asogli was one of the considerate IPPs in the space. Suddenly, they are chasing their money. And I suspect that in 2024, given that it's an election year, all the IPPs are going to be looking for their money because you don't want to push your debt to 2025 when there's a new government, a new negotiation, and the rest of it. So those are the threats we face. The budget says now that the under-recoveries could be as high as $27 billion.
Financial economist Professor Bokpin is advising the government and a cross-section of Ghanaians to be moderate in their celebrations of a turnaround of the economy. According to him, though the economy has witnessed some improvement, there is still a long way to go as the country is yet to start its external debt restructuring. Also speaking on the Super Morning Show, Professor Bokpin said the recovery by the country is coming at a great cost.
We are not out of it. and let me put that so that every Ghanaian, we have to be moderate with our expectations in terms of how growth is going to turn out and how it's going to benefit Ghanaian. You can have growth at different level. The economy can recover at different level, right? But before it will benefit the ordinary Ghanaian, we are looking at maintaining macroeconomic stability for not less than 15 years. We say in economics, low inflation is desirable in itself, but you need to maintain low for long, right? We need to have low inflation of, let's say, about 6%, between 6% and 8% for not less than 15 years. Okay, then you begin to see how the macro level development begin to trickle down, begin to manifest at the micro level, at the household level. What we have seen over the years is some level of progress. Inflation comes down, then within the shortest possible time, it jumps up. That wide swings is not good for planning, it's not good for wealth preservation and the rest of them. So yes, we are seeing some recovery, but it's not the kind of recovery that we will say we have arrived. So if you see the macro numbers, all of them are not telling the same story. They are all not pointing in the same direction. So if you see it that way, you will be unique to conclude that you have turned the corner.
Still on the economy, Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, Professor John Gachi says government is likely to overspend in the election year. According to him, government will spend with hopes of winning the votes of the populace. He added that, despite a warning from Fitch Solutions, government overspending will have dire consequences on the economy. He spoke earlier on the marketplace.
I think the warning is very clear. We have seen signs of that already. We saw that in 2020. Much of the talk about COVID-19 expenditure and the borrowing was actually directed to election expenditure in the country, and that has actually resulted into partly the problem that we encounter from 2021. Again, you have heard the president indicated that he will spend the 1 year left for him to make Ghanaians prosperous. What that means is that they are going to spend a lot of money in areas that they think that they are sensitive to Ghanaians, areas such as utilities, things like social intervention, that may not make so much meaning to the economy, but just to make people happy to vote. In election year, politicians always have the belief that they can destroy, and after election, they can reconstruct. Even though that will create a lot of problem for us, as we saw in 2021 from 2020 election. So we are going to see the same thing. And there are people who are of the view that because the IMF is too fast, the government cannot spend. That is not true. The government will do everything possible to overspend in the election year. So the IMF has been with us since 2015 up to 2019. That did not deter the government in engaging in all manner of borrowing and then the associated risk of borrowing that we have experienced. So I do not think that the IMF have that capacity to constrain the government from overspending.
Now, the Ghana Stock Exchange placed 10th in dollar terms among 15 stock markets in Africa in 2023. It recorded a return of negative 5.66% for investors. Here's more.
But for the about 15% depreciation of the cedi to the dollar, the Accra Bears would have been classified among the top performing stock markets in Africa in 2023. In local currency terms, the GSCR placed 5th with a 28.08% return for investors. The performance of the market is coming on the back of the International Monetary Fund program, which brought some renewed investor confidence. According to data, the non-banking stocks led the gains in the equity market. The financial stock index, however, registered a return of negative 7.36%. This was a result of the second part of the domestic debt exchange program, which had impacted the earnings of some banks. The best performing stocks were BOP, Total Energies, Unilever, Guinness Ghana Breweries Limited, and MTN Ghana. The worst performing stocks were, however, Access Bank, Ecobank Ghana, SIC, Enterprise Group, and Cowbank. Meanwhile, Egypt EGX was the best performing stock on the African continent in 2023.
Senior finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amoa, has commended the central bank for its efforts in stabilizing the cedi in 2023. According to him, the gains made by the cedi last year should be enough to keep the local currency strong, even in an election year. He spoke earlier on the marketplace.
Indeed, the performance of the cedi last year compared to the previous year is very much of an improvement. Although the cedi depreciated, you can clearly see that the cedi was much stronger in 2023 than the year before. And so we have to give, in this case, credit to the central bank for doing all it has done in the year under review and for giving us a cedi that has been relatively stable compared to the previous year that we all saw. But this is not too strange about the cedi. If you have watched and observed the historical trend, the Ghana cedi, realize that if you look at the political business cycle that we have in Ghana, The year preceding the election year, our CD normally have challenges. Historically, the average has been about a 21% loss. Historically, talking about the average, each year before the election year. Some years we have done poorly in terms of the strength of the CD. And then in election year in particular, if you look at the historical trend, the depreciation election year in particular has averaged over the period about 25%. So when you look at last year, and on the back of the previous year, in addition to the fact that we have gone through a very difficult economic condition, the domestic debt exchange program, I would definitely say that, yes, it is good. But it's not so strange if you put the city's performance in its historical context. What we are seeing here is that in an election year, the city, in terms of campaign message, the performance of the CD will come strong. And so we expect that the two big political parties will commitment go into the election year, into the election, on how best the CD will perform. In this regard, we are expecting that the CD will end up at, let's say, 14 or lowest 13.95 cedis to dollar.
Let's stay a little longer in the banking industry as customers of banks in Ghana experienced better services from their respective banks in the year 2023 compared to 2022. That's according to a West Africa banking industry customer experience survey by KPMG Ghana and Nigeria. Here is Ebenezer Sabute's report read to you.
Overall, the customer experience performance in the retail banking segment improved in 2023 by approximately 4 percentage points over that of 2022's score. Across the three segments, the corporate segment emerged with the highest overall customer experience score, followed by the small and medium enterprises and retail segments, respectively. Additionally, corporate banking customers identified relationship management as the paramount area of importance, especially emphasizing the professionalism and attitude of bank staff and relationship managers. This metric experienced a significant surge, elevated by 12 percentage points in comparison to its score the previous year. SME customers highlighted three critical areas of importance, which were accuracy and completeness of account information, security of transactions, and reliability of payment services. Meanwhile, the value for money concerning appropriate fees and charges ranked fourth last year.
The new World Bank Country Director, Dr. Robert O'Brien, is expected to assume office today. The economist is taking over from Pierre Laporte, who finally left town last week. So what might be the immediate priority of Dr. O'Brien? George Wiafe has the details.
Based on our engagement with officials in Washington, D.C., USA, one of his immediate priorities as the new World Bank Country Director is to see how the $300 million budget support can be advanced to Ghana on time. Now, that would be dependent on Ghana reaching a deal with its bilateral creditors this week on the proposed terms to restructure their debts. This will pave the way for the IMF board to meet on Ghana on January 11, 2024 and approve the $600 million to Ghana. Another issue that will be on Dr. O'Brien's table will be how some project funds that have been set aside for Ghana is indeed utilized on time. This is because the World Bank has indicated that it will assign these funds back to Washington, D.C., USA, if the necessary drawdowns are not done by June 2024. Dr. O'Brien is taking over at the time that Ghana is said to have received record $1.6 billion over the past 4 years, and he's going to work on advancing more support to the country. He's also expected to press ahead with programs aimed at reducing poverty in the country.
Welcome. Transport operators could be pushing for an increase in fares in the coming days. This follows an increase in the third-party insurance premiums from 1st January. The cost of insurance is one of the major factors that influences transport fares, and the transport operators are in the coming days expected to engage the government over their demand for an increase in fares. It is, however, unclear whether the government may grant them their request following a reduction in prices of petroleum products yesterday. Again, the cedi has remained stable, which could also impact positively on the cost of spare parts. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of Maxwell Investments Group, Dr. Maxwell Amoa, is urging entrepreneurs to incorporate corporate social responsibility in their activities. According to him, Ghana had a lot of downgrades, partly due to the lack of environmental sustainable governance initiatives. Advising entrepreneurs on how to approach the new year, Dr. Maxwell believes a portion of every company's earnings must be spent on the community it operates in.
From Sanjay Padilla was to lighten up Christmas and New Year celebrations. According to Chief Executive of Maxwell Investments Group, Dr. Maxwell Amoa, corporate social responsibility activities are expected to increase in the year in order for the country to avoid any form of downgrades associated with environmental social governance. Addressing entrepreneurs on how to approach the new year, Dr. Amoa said a portion of every company's earnings must be spent on community services.
So CSR is a big part of ESG. They should find a way to incorporate CSR into the ESG framework, and it's going to work wonders. You cannot exist without community. The street lights that I enjoy, the roads that I drove on here, it's all a part of a communal effort, and for Maxwell Investment Group, we take this very seriously, which is why this is just the beginning of many other companies should take it upon themselves in their small way. This is from one partner, one company organizing all of this for us, and we are just elated, and we know that someone out there can do the same thing. We hope that this inspires people to do more throughout the whole of 2024 and have a very, very happy new year.
The community leaders express optimism that the items will be put to good use, as they also expect more from other businesses and philanthropists. Here's Hajia Aisha Ibrahim.
In this, our community, what happened today, we've never seen it in our life in this community. Yes, today we are thanking him for the great job that he did for us. We thank all his family, wherever he is, and wherever all these resources is coming out, God should amend it for him.
On the business outlook for the year, Maxwell Investments Group expects increase in yields as economic activities are being revived.
If you just joined us, this is Business Live, and my name is Emma Davis, but we'll take a quick breather. We'll be right back. Welcome. Now let's go to the health sector, as players in the health industry are calling for more investment within the sector. According to the founder of Dr. Carey Dental Clinic, Dr. Martin Carey, it is pertinent for the sector to have public and private investors to boost investments. He spoke to Joy Business at the opening of Dr. Martin Carey Dentistry Clinic.
It's called for advanced technology within the sector to aid in healthcare delivery services. Dr. Carey said a conscious effort is needed to expand the sector.
Perspective. So how do you get people who've never understood or gone to dentistry more into dentistry, and for them to integrate dentistry in their lives? I believe the simple answer is education. We have to educate people on exactly what dentistry is, what your mouth means, what your oral health means. We had a gentleman recently in the U.S., a star football player, who died. And it came out last week that his cause of death was that he had a dental infection that had gone to his brain. And so most people don't understand that the mouth is the only place in the body where things go into your body. Everything else, every other portion of your body, things go out. It is through education, it is through customer service base, it is through teaching, phasing, and treatment planning, and it is also through making sure that we are following up with customers who did maybe only come because they were in pain one time.
The clinic is dedicated to delivering quality dental services and aims to make superior oral health care accessible and affordable.
On that dental note, we end tonight's Prime Business Live. My name is Emma Davis. For more news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. I leave you with international business.